The massive ship drifted through the dark space between stars. Its silver hull stretched for nearly 2 kilometers, covered in sensors that could detect life from millions of miles away. The ship belonged to the Galactic Confederation, a group of alien races that had been exploring space for thousands of years. Inside the ship, senior researcher Kethra stood before a large viewing screen. Her 6 arms moved gracefully as she adjusted the controls. Her species, the Valonians, were known throughout the galaxy for their careful scientific work. They never rushed, they never made mistakes. At least, that was what Kethra believed. Another system to catalog, she said to herself, her voice making soft clicking sounds that her translator device turned into words. Sol system. 1 star, 8 planets. Let us see what secrets you hold. Behind her, military advisor Morden shifted his weight from one thick leg to the other. The Thrakkari were a warrior race, built like walking tanks with tough gray skin and 4 powerful arms. Morden had no patience for slow scientific work. How long will this take? Morden asked, his deep voice rumbling through the bridge. We have been traveling for 3 months. I want to return to civilization. Science cannot be rushed, Kethra replied without turning around. Each world must be properly studied. The Confederation depends on accurate reports. At a smaller workstation nearby, young Zelana watched the data streams flowing across her screen. She was an Aquarian, with smooth blue skin and large eyes that could see far more colors than most species. As the newest member of the survey team, she spent most of her time listening and learning. The ship's main computer began displaying information about the Sol system. Kethra read the data aloud for her team to hear. 8 planets orbit the star. The first 4 are small and rocky. The outer 4 are gas giants with many moons. The third planet from the star appears to be in the habitable zone. Morden snorted. Every system has planets in the habitable zone. Most are empty rocks or poisonous swamps. What makes this one special? Kethra adjusted the sensors to focus on the third planet. Slowly, an image appeared on the main screen. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and white clouds swirling around brown and green land. Interesting, Kethra murmured. This world has liquid water, oxygen in the atmosphere. It should support life. Should, but does it? Morden asked. The computer began running deeper scans. Within minutes, alarms started flashing across multiple screens. Kethra's 6 arms moved quickly, checking and rechecking the data. What is it? Zelana asked, swimming closer to the main display. The scans show massive atmospheric disturbances, Kethra explained, her voice filled with concern. Storms that could destroy entire continents. Temperature ranges from freezing cold to burning hot. The magnetic field fluctuates wildly, allowing dangerous radiation to reach the surface. More data appeared on the screens. Morden leaned forward, reading the information with growing amazement. Look at this, he said, pointing at one display. Volcanic activity that could melt metal. Earthquakes that split the ground open. Ocean currents that could crush our strongest ships, Kethra continued, reading the scan results. The atmosphere contains gases that would poison most known species. The gravity is strong enough to crush many of our people. And these storms, they spawn rotating columns of wind that move at incredible speeds. Tornadoes, the computer said, translating the human word. Wind speeds exceeding 500 kilometers per hour. Zelana stared at the planet in horror. How could anything live in such conditions? Nothing could, Morden declared. This is clearly a death world. We should mark it as uninhabitable and move on. But Kethra was not ready to give up. She had spent her entire life studying planets, and something about this world fascinated her. Computer, run a full spectral analysis. Check for any signs of organized activity. The computer worked for several minutes, scanning the planet with every sensor available. Finally, it displayed its results. Electromagnetic signatures detected across the planet's surface. Patterns suggest primitive technology, radio waves, electrical activity, and what appears to be controlled nuclear reactions. Impossible, Morden said. Nothing intelligent could survive on that death trap. Kethra studied the data more carefully. The signals are very basic. Probably just simple organisms that have learned to use electricity, like the glowing fish. On Aquaria Prime, Zelana was not convinced. She had been watching the electromagnetic readings, and something bothered her. Senior researcher, may I point out something unusual? Of course, young one, these electrical signals, they seem to follow patterns. Look here, she said, highlighting part of her screen. The signals repeat at regular intervals. And here, they appear to be synchronized across vast distances. Kethra examined Zelana's findings. That is odd, but it could be a natural phenomenon. Some planets develop electrical fields that create regular pulses. But look at this, Zelana insisted, bringing up another display. The signals change. They adapt. When atmospheric conditions shift, the signal patterns change to compensate. Adaptive behavior, Kethra mused. That suggests some form of intelligence. But what kind of intelligence could survive in such hostile conditions? Morden had heard enough. We are wasting time. Mark this system as surveyed. Class 12, Death, World, no intelligent life possible. Let us move on to the next system. Wait, Zelena said quickly. I am detecting something else. Metal objects moving in the space around the planet. They appear to be artificial. The main screen shifted to show the area around the planet. Dozens of small objects orbited the world, too regular in their paths to be natural. Satellites, Kethra breathed. Someone put those there. Impossible, Morden repeated, but his voice was less certain now. The computer continued analyzing the orbital objects, detecting advanced materials in their construction. Solar panels for power generation. Communication arrays. These objects are definitely artificial. Kethra felt her excitement growing. Run deeper scans. Focus on the planet's surface. Look for cities, roads, any signs of organized civilization. The results that came back shocked all three aliens into silence. The planet's surface was covered with lights that formed geometric patterns, straight lines that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Vast areas where the natural landscape had been completely changed. By the seven suns, Kethra whispered, "This is not a death world. This is home to an intelligent species." But how? Morden asked, staring at the data in disbelief. The conditions on that planet would kill any of our people within hours. Perhaps, Zelena suggested quietly, they adapted to survive in those conditions. Kethra began typing commands into the computer. Change our classification. This system requires immediate diplomatic contact protocols. We need to inform the Confederation Council. Should we attempt communication? Zelena asked. Not yet, Kethra replied. First, we need to understand what we are dealing with. A species that can survive on such a hostile world might be more dangerous than we imagine. Morden nodded grimly. Any species that calls a death world home has learned to fight for survival every day. They might see us as a threat. The three aliens continued, studying the planet that had surprised them all. None of them realized that far below, human scientists had already detected their ship. The inhabitants of the death world were watching, the Watchers, and they were very interested in their unexpected visitors. On the planet's surface, in laboratories and military command centers around the world, humans were preparing for the most important moment in their species' history. First contact with alien life was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what kind of species could thrive in the conditions that other races considered impossible to survive. Captain Lee Hanna pressed her face against the small window of the submarine and watched the dark ocean outside. The water pressure at this depth would crush a human body in seconds, but she felt completely safe inside her metal vessel. Around her, 20 crew members worked at their stations, monitoring systems that kept them alive 3 kilometers below the surface. "Captain, we are approaching the thermal vent field," reported her navigation officer. "The water temperature outside is rising rapidly." "Good," Hanna replied. "Begin collecting samples from the vent systems. The scientists want to study the bacteria that live in those conditions." Above them, a massive storm raged across the Pacific Ocean. Waves as tall as buildings crashed against each other, and winds howled at speeds that could flip cars. But down here in the deep ocean, Hanna and her crew worked calmly, protected by human engineering and decades of experience. The submarine moved slowly through the underwater landscape. Strange fish with glowing bodies swam past the windows. Hot water shot up from cracks in the ocean floor, carrying minerals that would poison most life forms. Yet here, in one of the most hostile places on Earth, humans conducted scientific research, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Captain, sonar is detecting something unusual above us," the sonar operator called out. "There appears to be an object in high orbit that was not there yesterday." Hanna frowned. "How high?" "Beyond our satellites. Much higher than any known spacecraft." "Keep monitoring it," Hanna ordered. "Send the data to Naval Command when we surface." 5,000 kilometers away, Dr. Kim Taemin sat in his observatory high in the mountains of South Korea. The thin air at this altitude contained so little oxygen that most people would pass out within minutes. But Taemin had worked here for 10 years, and his body had adapted to the conditions. His telescope was pointed at the night sky, tracking objects that moved between the stars. For the past 3 days, he had been watching something unusual, something that did not belong in Earth's solar system. "It is definitely artificial," he murmured to himself, adjusting the telescope controls. Too regular to be an asteroid, too large to be space debris. The object appeared to be some kind of spacecraft, but unlike anything humans had ever built. It moved in slow, careful patterns, as if it were studying the Earth from a distance. Taemin reached for his secure phone and dialed a number he had memorized but hoped never to use. It connected him directly to the government's Space Monitoring Division. "This is Dr. Kim at Observatory 7, he said when someone answered. "I need to report a possible extraterrestrial contact." Meanwhile, high in the Himalayan mountains, Park Sora led her rescue team through a blizzard that had been raging for 2 days. The temperature was 40 degrees below zero, and the wind cut through their protective clothing like knives. Most humans would die in these conditions within an hour, but Sora and her team moved confidently through the storm. The missing climbers should be somewhere near here, she shouted over the wind to her partner, Lee Min-ho. Their last radio signal came from this area. How can anyone survive in this weather? Min-ho replied, checking his GPS device with gloved hands. The same way we do, Sora answered. Good equipment, proper training, and the will to keep fighting. They found the lost climbers huddled in a small cave, cold and frightened but alive. Sora's team quickly set up emergency shelters and began warming the rescued people with portable heaters powered by batteries that functioned even in extreme cold. As they worked, Sora noticed something strange in the sky. Between the clouds, she caught glimpses of lights that moved in patterns unlike any aircraft she knew. The lights were too high and too bright to be helicopters or planes. Min-ho, look up there, she said, pointing at the sky. What is it? I do not know, but it does not look human. In Seoul, engineer Choi Woo-jin worked late in his laboratory, testing equipment designed for Mars exploration. The test chamber could simulate the deadly conditions of space, including vacuum, extreme temperatures, and radiation levels that would kill unprotected humans in minutes. Beginning pressure test sequence, he announced to his computer. Reducing atmospheric pressure to Mars levels. The machine he had built continued working perfectly as the air was sucked out of the chamber. It had been designed to help future human colonists survive on other worlds, places that would be even more hostile than Earth. That's he worked. Woo-jin received an urgent message on his computer. It was from the government's science division, marked with the highest security classification, all personnel with space technology, experience report to emergency briefing. Possible extraterrestrial contact situation developing. Woo-jin stared at the message. After years of preparing for life on other worlds, it seemed that other worlds might be coming to Earth. Across the planet, humans went about their daily lives in environments that would terrify most alien species. In the Sahara Desert, researchers worked in temperatures hot enough to cook food. In Antarctica, scientists lived for months in cold that could freeze human flesh in minutes. On oil rigs in the North Sea, workers battled storms that could sink ships and waves tall enough to destroy buildings. None of them knew that they were being watched from space by aliens who could not believe what they were seeing. The Galactic Confederation survey team had expected to find simple organisms struggling to survive on a death world. Instead, they discovered a species that had not just survived but learned to thrive in conditions that would kill most galactic civilizations. In the deep ocean, Captain Hannah completed her mission and began surfacing toward a storm that would challenge even her submarine's strong hull. In his mountain observatory, Dr. Taman gathered more evidence of the alien ship and prepared detailed reports for his government. High in the frozen mountains, Sora led her rescued climbers to safety through weather that most species would consider impossible to survive. And in his laboratory, Choi Woo-jin received orders to join a team that was preparing for humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. Each of these humans lived and worked in conditions that the aliens above them classified as deadly. Each had spent years learning to master environments that would destroy most life forms. They represented a species that had spread across every climate and condition their world could offer. From the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, from burning deserts to frozen wastelands, the aliens watching from space had made a critical error in judgment. They had looked at Earth's hostile conditions and assumed that any life found there would be weak, simple, and desperate for survival. Instead, they had discovered a species that had been forged by those hostile conditions into something far more dangerous than they could imagine. Humanity had turned their death world into a training ground, and now they were about to meet visitors who had no idea what they were dealing with. Dr. Kim Taman had not slept for 36 hours. His eyes burned from staring at computer screens, but he could not rest. The alien ship had moved closer to Earth, and its behavior patterns were becoming clearer with each passing hour. He is definitely scanning us, he told his assistant over the phone. The electromagnetic patterns show systematic observation. They are studying our planet like scientists studying bacteria in a laboratory. In the government's crisis center in Seoul, General Yoon Ji-ho studied the same data that Taman had been collecting. The general was a small woman with sharp eyes and 20 years of military experience. She had trained for many possible threats, but contact with alien intelligence had always seemed like science fiction. How long have they been watching us? She asked the room full of scientists and military officers. At least for days, replied Professor Bae In-soo, the country's leading expert in communication theory. Possibly longer. Dr. Kim's data suggests they have been scanning our entire solar system. Ambassador Nam So-yeon, a diplomat who had spent her career managing international relations, sat quietly in the corner. She had been called from her vacation to help handle what might become the most important negotiation in human history. What do we know about their intentions? She asked. Nothing certain, General Yoon replied, but their behavior suggests scientific curiosity rather than immediate hostility. They are keeping their distance and observing. High above Earth, the alien survey team was having their own urgent discussions. Kethra had spent the last day studying every piece of data her ship's computers could gather about the planet below. These readings cannot be correct, she said for the 10th time. The computer claims there are over 7 billion intelligent beings living on that world. 7 billion, Morden repeated slowly. That is more than the total population of 12 Confederation worlds combined. Young Zelena had been analyzing the electromagnetic signals that covered the planet. Senior researcher, I believe I have identified different types of technology. Some appears primitive, but other signals suggest advanced understanding of physics and engineering. Show me, Kethra commanded. Zelena displayed her findings on the main screen. These signals come from devices that split atoms for power generation. Others come from machines that use controlled explosions to launch objects into space. And these signals suggest they have learned to manipulate electromagnetic radiation for long-distance communication. Morden studied the data with growing concern. Nuclear technology, space launch capability, advanced communications. This species has military potential. But they live on a death world, Kethra protested. How could they develop such technology while fighting for survival against their own planet? Maybe, Zelena suggested quietly, fighting for survival is what made them develop such technology. The conversation was interrupted by an alarm from the ship's security systems. The computer's voice filled the bridge with urgent warnings. Alert! Unauthorized probe detected approaching our vessel. Origin point confirmed as third planet. Estimated arrival in 6 minutes. All three aliens stared at the tactical display in shock. A small object had launched from Earth and was climbing toward them at incredible speed. Impossible, Morden breathed. No species has ever detected our ships from such distance. They not only detected us, Kethra realized, they built and launched a response probe in less than 2 days. Back on Earth, Dr. Kim Taman watched his computer screens with excitement and terror. The probe that humanity had quickly built and launched was approaching the alien ship. Every nation on Earth had contributed technology and expertise to create it in record time. Probe telemetry looks good, he reported to General Yoon over the secure communication link. We should reach the target in 5 minutes. What exactly are we sending them? Ambassador Nam asked. Professor Bay answered, mathematical proofs showing our understanding of physics. Detailed analysis of their ship's construction based on our observations. And a message of peaceful intentions in over 200 human languages. Well, they understand it. Any intelligent species should recognize mathematical truth, Bay replied. As for the message, we included visual symbols and basic scientific concepts that should translate across species barriers. On the alien ship, Kethra watched the approaching probe with fascination and fear. It is not armed, she announced after running scans. But the technology level is far more advanced than our initial estimates suggested. Should we destroy it? Morden asked, his hand moving toward the weapons controls. No, Kethra said firmly. We observe, we learn. The human probe reached the alien ship and began transmitting. Within seconds, the ship's computers were processing vast amounts of information. The aliens watched in amazement as their screens, filled with complex mathematical equations, detailed technical drawings, and what appeared to be some form of greeting. They have analyzed our ship's hull composition, Zelena reported, her voice filled with wonder. These calculations show they understand our propulsion system better than some Confederation engineers. Kethra studied the mathematical proofs that humans had included. This is not primitive intelligence. This is sophisticated scientific understanding. They have independently discovered principles that took our civilization thousands of years to develop, and they did it while living on a world that should have killed them. Morden added grimly, the message portion of the human transmission included images showing Earth's environments, pictures of humans working in conditions that made the alien crew members step back from their screens in horror. Humans swimming in crushing ocean depths. Humans working in radioactive environments. Humans living comfortably in temperatures that would freeze Valonian blood or boil Aquarian skin. By the 7 suns, Kethra whispered. They are not struggling to survive on their world, they have mastered it completely. Zelena had been analyzing the linguistic portions of the human message. Senior researcher, I count over 200 different communication systems in this transmission. I believe this species has multiple separate cultures, all living on the same world. Multiple cultures sharing one planet, Morden asked. That should lead to constant warfare. Perhaps it does, Kethra replied thoughtfully. Perhaps that is another reason they became so formidable. They have been fighting not just their hostile environment, but each other. The human probe completed its transmission and began its return journey to Earth. The aliens watched it go, each lost in their own thoughts about what they had learned. What do we do now? Zelena asked. Kethra considered their options carefully. We respond, but carefully. We are no longer dealing with simple organisms on a death world. We have discovered a species that has weaponized survival itself. Should we contact the Confederation Council? Morden asked. Yes, Kethra replied. But first, we attempt direct communication. If these humans are as intelligent as they appear, they will be expecting a response. Deep in the government crisis center on Earth, alarms began sounding as tracking stations detected movement from the alien ship. The visitors were preparing to make direct contact, and humanity was about to discover how the galaxy would react to meeting a species that called a Deathworld home. The first direct communication between humans and aliens happened on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Kim Taemin was drinking his third cup of coffee when his computers began receiving signals from the alien ship. The message was simple but clear, mathematical sequences that meant we want to talk. Within hours, the world's best linguists, mathematicians, and diplomats had gathered in Seoul's crisis center. Ambassador Nam Soo-young led the response team, working with Professor Bae In-soo to decode the alien language systems. They are using basic mathematics to establish communication protocols, Bae explained to the assembled team. Very logical, very careful, they do not want to make mistakes. General Yoon Ji-ho monitored the military aspects of the contact. What can we determine about their capabilities? Their ship is massive, replied Colonel Park Dong-hyun, the military's space technology expert. At least 2 kilometers long. Materials we cannot identify. Propulsion systems that seem impossible according to our physics. But they seem peaceful, Ambassador Nam observed. They could have ignored our probe or destroyed it. Instead, they studied it and responded. The aliens had sent detailed information about themselves. They claimed to represent something called the Galactic Confederation, a group of many different species that explored space together. They explained that they had initially classified Earth as uninhabitable. Uninhabitable. Dr. Kim laughed when he read the translation. They thought our planet was too dangerous for life. From their perspective, it probably is. Professor Bae replied thoughtfully. Look at their data about their homeworlds. Average temperatures between 15 and 25 degrees. Stable weather patterns. Low radiation levels. By their standards, Earth is incredibly hostile. The aliens requested permission to send a small shuttle to Earth for face-to-face meetings. After much debate, the human leadership agreed. The meeting site would be a research station in Antarctica, chosen because its extreme conditions would give humans a natural advantage if things went wrong. Captain Lee Hanna was selected to lead the human delegation. Her experience in extreme environments and her calm personality made her ideal for first contact. She would be joined by Dr. Kim Taemin, engineer Choi Woo-jin, and mountain rescue specialist Park Sora. Why these 4? General Yoon asked Ambassador Nam. Because they represent what makes humans special. Nam replied, they are people who thrive in conditions that would kill most species. If the aliens want to understand humanity, they need to meet humans who show our true nature. The alien shuttle landed at the Antarctic Research Station during a blizzard. Wind speeds reached 80 kilometers per hour, and the temperature was 30 degrees below zero. The human delegation waited inside the station's main building, watching through reinforced windows as the alien craft settled onto the ice. I hope they brought warm clothes, Sora commented, checking her own cold weather gear. 3 figures emerged from the shuttle. Even through the blowing snow, the humans could see that the aliens wore heavy environmental suits. They moved slowly and carefully across the ice, clearly struggling with the conditions. Captain Hanna opened the station's airlock to let the visitors inside. Welcome to Earth, she said as the aliens removed their helmets. The humans got their first close look at the survey team. Kethra towered over them with her 6 arms and insect-like features. Morden was built like a living tank, with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. Young Zelana looked the most human-like, but her blue skin and large eyes marked her as clearly alien. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us, Kethra said through her translation device. We must apologize for our initial mistake in classifying your world. You thought Earth was uninhabitable, Dr. Kim asked. By our standards, it is, Morden replied bluntly. The conditions outside right now would kill any of our people within minutes. How do you survive in such an environment? Choi Woo-jin smiled. Practice. Humans have been dealing with extreme conditions for thousands of years. We learn to adapt. Or die, Sora added matter-of-factly. Our ancestors who could not handle the cold, the heat, the storms, or the dangerous animals did not survive to have children. Only the tough ones lived long enough to pass on their genes. The aliens exchanged glances. This was not how evolution worked on their worlds. Your planet shaped your species through survival pressure, Kethra observed. Fascinating. Most intelligent species develop in stable, comfortable environments. Comfortable environments create comfortable people, Captain Hanna said. Difficult environments create people who can handle difficulty. Dr. Kim pulled up holographic displays showing human achievements. We have built cities in deserts where the temperature reaches 50 degrees. We have research stations in Antarctica. Where we are sitting now, we live in areas with active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, and deadly storms. But why? Zelana asked, genuinely puzzled. Why not simply avoid the dangerous areas? Because the dangerous areas often have resources. We need, Choi explained, oil under the ocean, minerals in the mountains, fertile soil near volcanoes. We learned that the most valuable things are often in the most dangerous places. Morden studied the human technology around them. Your equipment is built to function in extreme conditions. Our sensors showed that your military technology works. In environments that would disable most Confederation systems, it has too, Captain Hanna replied. A weapon that only works in perfect conditions is useless. Our soldiers fight in jungles, deserts, mountains, and underwater. Our equipment must work everywhere. The aliens spent the next several hours learning about human civilization. They were amazed to discover that humans had spread to every continent. On their planet, including areas that would be considered uninhabitable by galactic standards, you have settlements in your planet's polar regions, Kethra asked in disbelief. Permanent research stations, Sora confirmed. People live there, year-round, it builds character, and you have people living underwater. Submarines, underwater bases, research stations on the ocean floor, Dr. Kim listed. Some humans spend months underwater. What about space? Zilana asked. Do you have people living in space? Choi nodded enthusiastically. Space stations, moon bases in development, plans for Mars colonies. We want to spread to other worlds, but we are using Earth as training ground first. The revelation that hit the aliens hardest came when the humans casually mentioned their global conflicts. You said your species has been fighting wars. Morden asked carefully. Throughout our history, Captain Hanna admitted, humans have always competed with each other for resources and territory, while also fighting your hostile environment. Yes, we fight our planet's dangers and each other at the same time. It makes us very good at both. The aliens sat in stunned silence. Most species in the galaxy had achieved peace before developing advanced technology. The idea of a species that had mastered both warfare and environmental survival simultaneously was terrifying. We need to contact the Confederation Council immediately, Kethra whispered to her companions. This species is far more formidable than anyone imagined. As the meeting continued, the humans demonstrated their casual relationship with danger. Sora stepped outside during the blizzard to check weather conditions. Dr. Kim worked with equipment that produced radiation levels dangerous to the aliens. Choi tested machinery in the sub-zero cold without any apparent concern. The aliens realized they had discovered something unprecedented, a species that had turned a Deathworld into a home, and themselves into the most adaptable survivors the galaxy had ever seen. News of the alien contacts spread quickly through the Galactic Confederation. Within days, representatives from dozens of species were demanding answers. How could a survey team make such a massive error? How could they mistake a Deathworld for a civilization center? Commander Veltar of the Confederation Military Council was not convinced by the survey team's reports. The Velmari were an ancient species known for their suspicion of new contacts. They had survived for millennia by being careful about potential threats. No species can be as adaptable as these reports claim, Veltar declared during an emergency council session. Either the survey team is exaggerating, or these humans are hiding their true nature. What do you suggest? Asked Council Leader Zarin, a wise old Therian who had guided the Confederation for over a century. We test them, Veltar replied. If they truly can survive in the conditions they claim, let them prove it. But we test them in controlled situations where we can observe their true capabilities. The message reached Earth 3 days later. The aliens wanted to conduct what they called compatibility assessments to determine if humans could truly function in the extreme environments they claimed to master. General Yoon read the alien proposal. With growing anger, they want to test us like laboratory animals. They are being cautious, Ambassador Nam replied diplomatically. From their perspective, our claims must seem impossible. They need proof. What kind of tests? Asked Professor Bay. Dr. Kim read from the alien transmission. They want to observe humans working in 4 different extreme environments. Deep ocean, pressure, high radiation zones, extreme cold weather, and toxic atmospheric conditions. Captain Hanna laughed. They want us to do our jobs while they watch. That does not sound like much of a test. It is to them, Choi pointed out. Remember, these are conditions that would kill their people quickly. They cannot imagine anyone surviving in such places, let alone working effectively. The human leadership agreed to the tests. It would be an opportunity to show the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of. 4 demonstration sites were selected, each representing a different aspect of human environmental mastery. The first test took place in the Pacific Ocean. Captain Hanna commanded a deep-sea research vessel that would descend to the ocean floor. While aliens observed from their ship above, the target depth was 4 kilometers below the surface, where the pressure would crush any unprotected alien in milliseconds. Beginning descent, Hanna reported over the communication link. Depth 1 kilometer and descending. In the alien observation ship, Kethra watched the readings with fascination and horror. The pressure outside their vessel is now sufficient to compress our strongest materials. How can they remain so calm? Look at their conversations. pointed out they are discussing lunch plans and weekend activities. This is normal work for them. At 3 kilometers depth, the human submarine encountered a massive underwater mountain range. Volcanic vents shot superheated water filled with toxic chemicals. The aliens expected the humans to retreat, but instead they moved closer. Collecting samples from the thermal vents, Hannah reported casually. The water temperature here is hot enough to melt copper, but our equipment handles it easily. Impossible. Morden breathed. They are working in conditions that would destroy our most advanced ships. The second test involved Dr. Kim working in a high radiation environment. A research facility had been built near an area where cosmic radiation reached dangerous levels. The aliens watched as Kim worked for hours in conditions that would have killed any Confederation citizen within minutes. Radiation levels are now 50 times higher than the maximum safe exposure for our people, reported the alien monitoring team. Yet the human continues working normally. His equipment protects him, Kethra observed. But more importantly, his species has developed natural resistance to radiation that would be lethal to us. Kim noticed unusual readings on his instruments. I am detecting electromagnetic patterns that suggest your ship's systems are being affected by the radiation here. Are your people feeling unwell? The aliens realized with shock that they had to move their observation ship further away. The radiation that Kim worked in comfortably was making their crew sick and damaging their equipment. The third test took Park Sora to the highest mountain peak available during the worst weather conditions. She led a rescue training exercise in temperatures that dropped to -40 degrees during a storm with winds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. Visual contact lost due to snow conditions, reported the alien observers. How can they navigate in such an environment? Through the communication link, they could hear Sora talking to her team members. Remember to check your equipment every 10 minutes. The cold will make metal brittle, so test your ropes and anchors frequently. They are not just surviving, Zilana realized, they are teaching others how to survive. This is a training exercise for them. The aliens watched in amazement as Sora's team rescued simulated victims from locations that would have been impossible to reach with Confederation technology. They moved confidently through the storm, using the harsh conditions to their advantage. The front of wind patterns helped them navigate, Kethra observed. They used the storm itself as a tool. The final test was the most shocking of all. Choi Woo-jin demonstrated human technology in a chamber filled with atmosphere that would poison most galactic species. The air contained chemicals that would burn alien lungs and gases that would shut down their nervous systems. Beginning equipment, tests in toxic environment simulation, Choi reported. This simulates the atmosphere of Venus, where we plan to build research stations. Venus, Morden asked. That planet is classified as impossible for any life to survive. Not impossible, Choi replied cheerfully. Just very challenging. We have already designed habitats that can function there. This is just a test of the latest improvements. The aliens watched as Choi worked in conditions that would have been deadly to every known species in the galaxy. His equipment not only functioned perfectly but actually seemed designed to take advantage of the hostile environment. Their technology turns poison into power, Kethra whispered. They are using the toxic gases to generate energy for their systems. The tests continued. For a full week, each day brought new demonstrations of human capability in environments that the aliens considered impossible for survival. But the most shocking moment came when a real emergency occurred. A Confederation observation ship suffered critical damage when its shields failed during a solar storm. The radiation and electromagnetic interference disabled most of their systems, and the ship began falling toward Earth's atmosphere. All Confederation vessels, this is emergency protocol, came the distress call. We require immediate assistance. The human response was immediate. Captain Hannah's submarine surfaced and launched emergency rockets. Dr. Kim's facility redirected its entire power grid to boost communication signals. Sora's mountain rescue team repositioned to serve as a landing beacon. Choi's engineering team began calculating rescue trajectories. Human vessels, stay clear. The alien ship transmitted, the radiation levels will damage your equipment. Negative, Captain Hannah replied. We are designed for this. Beginning rescue approach. The aliens watched in stunned silence as human rescue ships flew directly into the radiation storm that had disabled their advanced technology. The humans worked together with practiced efficiency, using techniques and equipment specifically designed for extreme conditions. Within hours, the alien crew was safely rescued and transported to medical facilities on Earth. The humans had succeeded in a rescue operation that would have been impossible for any other species in the galaxy. They did not just survive the conditions that nearly killed us, Kethra said quietly. They used those conditions to save our lives. Now, do you believe our reports? Zilana asked. Morden nodded grimly. I believe them, but I also understand why this species terrifies me. They have turned survival into an art form. What happens when they start exploring the galaxy? The test was over, but the real revelation was just beginning. The aliens had not just discovered a new species, they had found beings who could thrive anywhere, survive anything, and turn the most hostile environments into their personal training grounds. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to meet a species that called the Deathworld home. The Great Council Chamber of the Galactic Confederation had never seen anything like it. Representatives from over 200 species filled the massive hall, all talking at once about the reports from the Sol system. The discovery of humanity had shaken the foundation of everything they thought they knew about intelligent life. Council leaders Aaron called for order with the traditional chiming of the harmony bells. The ancient Therian's voice carried across the chamber with the authority of someone who had guided the galaxy for over a century. "We are here to discuss the species known as humans," he announced. "Their world has been reclassified from Death World to what our scientists now call a Forge World, a planet whose hostile conditions have created an exceptionally capable species." Commander Veltar of the Velmarie stood to address the council. "I led the opposition to accepting these humans into our confederation. I demanded proof of their claims. I have seen that proof, and I was wrong." A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. The Velmarie never admitted mistakes. "The humans do not just survive in conditions that would kill us," Veltar continued. "They have learned to use those conditions as tools. Their rescue of our damaged ship proved that they are more capable in extreme environments than any species we have ever encountered." Senior researcher Kethra activated the chamber's main display, showing images from Earth that still shocked many council members. Humans working calmly in crushing ocean depths. Humans building structures on frozen mountains. Humans exploring regions filled with deadly radiation. The most remarkable discovery, Kethra explained, is that humans do not see these as extreme conditions. To them, this is simply life on their homeworld. They have adapted so completely that they consider our controlled, stable environments to be boring. Ambassador Nam Suyang stood in the special section reserved for the human delegation. She had been invited to address the council. The first time in Confederation history that a species had been allowed to speak before formal membership was approved. "Honored members of the council," she began, "my people are grateful for this opportunity to join the galactic community. We offer our skills and knowledge in exchange for learning from your accumulated wisdom." "What exactly do humans offer the Confederation?" asked Representative Morkan of the Crystalline Collective. Ambassador Nam smiled. "We offer what our world taught us. The ability to survive and thrive in any environment. The technology to explore places other species cannot go. The experience of turning problems into opportunities." She activated her own display, showing human achievements that amazed the council. "We have built cities that float on our oceans. During massive storms, we have research stations that operate inside active volcanoes. We have vehicles that can travel through our most poisonous swamps and our most radioactive zones." "But why?" asked Councilmember Tizera of the Gentle Reef people. "Why choose to live in such dangerous places?" "Because that is where the most interesting things are," Ambassador Nam replied. "The deepest parts of our oceans contain life, forms that exist nowhere else. The most dangerous mountains hold minerals essential for our technology. The most hostile environments teach us lessons we cannot learn anywhere else." Captain Lee Hanna stepped forward. "I have been selected to command the first joint exploration mission between humans and the Confederation. We will explore regions of space that have been considered too dangerous for investigation." The council chamber buzzed with excitement. There were phenomena in the galaxy that no species had been able to study because the conditions were too hostile. Black hole event horizons, neutron star surfaces, gas giant interiors filled with crushing pressure and deadly radiation. "The humans have volunteered to lead expeditions to these locations," Council leader Zarin announced. "They will use their experience with extreme environments to explore places we never thought possible to visit." Dr. Kim Taman presented the technical details. "Human ships are built to function in conditions that would destroy most galactic technology. We can study stellar phenomena from distances that would be lethal to other species. We can explore planetary systems with dangerous radiation or unstable gravitational fields." Engineer Choi Woojin explained the habitat technologies that had impressed the aliens most. "We are sharing our designs for survival systems that work in any environment. Habitats that can function on worlds with toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, or crushing gravity." "What about military concerns?" asked General Deckmer of the Confederation Defense Force. "A species this adaptable could pose a significant threat." Park Sora answered with typical human directness. "We could be a threat, yes, but we prefer to be partners. Our world taught us that cooperation leads to better survival than conflict. Besides," Captain Hanna added, "we have been fighting our own planet for thousands of years. We know the difference between a real enemy and a challenging environment. The galaxy is just a bigger environment to explore." The council voted to accept humanity into the Confederation with an unprecedented unanimous decision. But more than simple membership, they offered humans a special role as environmental specialists and extreme condition explorers. Within months, human-designed equipment became standard for all Confederation operations in dangerous environments. Human rescue teams were stationed throughout the galaxy, ready to respond to emergencies and conditions that would overwhelm other species. Captain Hana took command of the exploration vessel, CSS Endurance, a ship designed with both human and alien technology. Her crew included members from 12 different species, all trained in human survival techniques. Beginning approach to the Helix Nebula, she reported during their first mission, radiation levels are at maximum safe exposure for non-human crew members. Human crew members, report status, came the reply from Confederation Command. Radiation levels are elevated but within normal operating parameters. Hannah replied, beginning detailed scientific observations. Dr. Kim established the first multi-species research facility in the Andromeda Galaxy, built on a world with an atmosphere that would poison most galactic citizens. Human environmental systems made it possible for any species to live and work there safely. Park Sora founded the Galactic Rescue Academy, where beings from across the galaxy learned human survival techniques. Her students included diplomats who needed to visit dangerous worlds, scientists who studied extreme phenomena, and military personnel who operated in hostile environments. Remember, she told a class of young aliens, your environment is not your enemy, your environment is your teacher. Listen to what it tells you. Learn from its challenges, and it will make you stronger. Choi Woo-jin's engineering designs revolutionized galactic construction. His habitats could be built on any world, no matter how hostile. Planets that had been written off as uninhabitable became thriving colonies, using human environmental technology. The greatest change, however, was in how the galaxy viewed survival and adaptation. The Confederation had always sought to control their environment to create stable, comfortable conditions for their citizens. Humans showed them a different approach, embracing challenge as a source of strength. The humans have taught us something profound, Council Leader Zarin said during the annual Confederation address. We always believed that intelligence arose from safety and comfort. We now understand that sometimes intelligence arises from challenge and adversity. The Deathworld we dismissed as uninhabitable produced the most capable species we have ever encountered. This teaches us to look more carefully at worlds we might have ignored. How many other remarkable species might be waiting for us in the places we considered too dangerous to explore? Years later, as human-led expeditions pushed the boundaries of galactic exploration further than ever before, the aliens often reflected on their first encounter with Earth. They had looked at a world of storms, radiation, crushing pressure, and extreme temperatures and seen only death. They had failed to see that such a world could forge life into something extraordinary. They had not realized that the deadliest thing on that Deathworld was not the environment, but the inhabitants who had learned to master it completely. The galaxy was a much more interesting place. Now that humanity had joined the community of worlds, dangerous, challenging, and sometimes frightening, but definitely more interesting. And as Captain Hannah often said during her exploration missions, interesting is exactly how humans like it.